I woke up that morning in the sterile chill of a prison cell, the steel cot digging into my back like a bed of nails. It was a cruel reminder of how far I'd fallen. My mind swirled with bitter memories of the trial, the lies, the betrayal, and the smug satisfaction on her face as the gavel fell. Lily. My wife. No, my ex-wife now. The woman I had loved with everything in me, the one I had vowed to protect and cherish, had orchestrated my downfall. 3 years in this hellhole had given me plenty of time to think, to plot, and to fester. The pain of her infidelity was one thing, but the sheer audacity of framing me for embezzlement, a crime I hadn't committed, was a betrayal I couldn't forgive. She had walked away with everything: the house, the cars, the accounts. And she had him, the slimy co-worker she'd been cheating with. He was probably lounging on my couch, sipping my whiskey, and laughing at my misfortune, but what Lily didn't know was that I wasn't the man she'd underestimated. Prison had changed me. It had hardened me, sharpened my edges. And it had given me allies, men who owed me favors, men who had connections. One of them, a wiry guy named Cole, had helped me set my plan in motion. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. The day I walked out of those prison gates was bittersweet. Freedom tasted like bile and adrenaline. I knew my release was temporary. The system had failed me once, it could fail me again. But I wasn't going to waste this chance. The first step was a visit to my lawyer, Greg, who'd been the only person to believe in my innocence. He had news for me. "I found the evidence you need," Greg said, sliding a manila envelope across the desk. His expression was grim. "It wasn't easy, but I've got the proof that Lily and her lover framed you." I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were emails, bank transfers, and a signed affidavit from an anonymous whistleblower. It was everything I needed to clear my name. But clearing my name wasn't enough. Lily needed to understand the pain she'd caused, the depth of her betrayal. She needed to feel the weight of her actions. The gift box was my idea. It was simple, elegant, and devastatingly effective. I spent days perfecting it, making sure every detail was just right. The box itself was wrapped in crimson paper, tied with a black satin ribbon. Inside, I placed a few carefully selected items: a pristine set of divorce papers, a USB drive containing the incriminating evidence, and a single Polaroid photo of us on our wedding day. Beneath it all was a letter, my final message to her. The day I delivered the box, I made sure to stay hidden. I watched from across the street as she opened the door, her perfectly manicured fingers curling around the package. She looked the same: beautiful, poised, and utterly deceitful. I felt a pang of something, regret, perhaps? But it was fleeting. She deserved this. Lily carried the box inside, and I waited. Minutes passed like hours. Then, it came, a piercing scream that shattered the quiet suburban morning. I couldn't help the grim smile that tugged at my lips. I'd gotten her attention. The next part of the plan was to wait. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I knew who it was before I even answered. "You bastard," she hissed. Her voice was laced with venom, but I could hear the fear underneath. "What do you want?" "Justice," I said simply. "And maybe a little closure." "You think you can scare me with your little stunt?" "You're pathetic." "Am I?" I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. "I've already sent copies of that USB to the authorities. It's only a matter of time before they come knocking. But I thought I'd give you a chance to explain yourself first." Face to face. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, shallow and erratic. "Fine. Where?" I gave her the address of a diner on the outskirts of town. "Neutral territory. Tomorrow. Noon. Don't be late." The next day, I arrived early, choosing a booth near the back where I could see the entrance. Lily walked in a few minutes past noon, her heels clicking against the tiled floor. She looked around nervously before spotting me. She hesitated, then walked over and slid into the seat across from me. "Well?" she demanded. "Say whatever it is you need to say." I studied her for a moment, taking in the carefully constructed facade. She was still trying to play the role of the victim, but her eyes gave her away. They were wild, darting around like a trapped animal. Why? I asked. Why did you do it? She laughed bitterly. Why? Because you're weak. You always were. You were so focused on your stupid job, on being the perfect husband, that you didn't even notice I was miserable. And when I found someone who actually cared about me, I wasn't about to let you ruin it. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I didn't let it show. So you framed me. Took everything and left me to rot. You would have done the same if you had the guts, she snapped. Don't pretend you're some saint. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Here's the difference, Lily. I didn't lie. I didn't cheat. And I sure as hell didn't destroy someone's life for my own gain. She opened her mouth to retort, but I held up a hand. Save it. The authorities will handle the rest. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. I stood and walked out, leaving her sitting there, her face pale and stricken. As I stepped into the sunlight, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Justice was coming, and this time, it wouldn't miss its mark. Weeks later, I found myself on a quiet beach at sunset. The waves crashed against the shore, the salt air filling my lungs. It had been years since I'd allowed myself a moment of peace. As the sky turned a brilliant shade of orange, I thought back to the early days with Lily, when love had been our anchor. I pulled out an old photo I'd kept hidden even through my darkest days. It was of me and her, smiling under the fairy lights of our first anniversary. The love we'd shared had been real once, burning bright enough to light up the darkest corners of my soul. I let the memory linger, then folded the photo and tucked it into my pocket. Someday, I whispered to the wind, someone will love me without conditions. The thought brought a small, hopeful smile to my face. I turned back to the horizon, ready to let the past drift away with the tide.